Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Norm and Katie's Legal Fight Club. We have a very important development in the law today, and it's one that you helped make possible, Legal Fight Club members. The Third Circuit Court of Appeals has ruled the first appellate ruling of its kind in the country. Katie's got it there, that I have it on my screen, and we're going to share the text from it, that Donald Trump's appointment of bogus and unqualified U.S. attorney purported Alina Habba was illegal. That, as we argued, myself, Democracy Defenders Fund with wonderful co-counsel Abby Lowell, Lowell and Associates, Jerry Cravatin. This appointment is null and void, and we're going to talk to you about why that matters. It matters in the Third Circuit because Habba has no more authority to prosecute cases than Katie or I do, maybe less. But it matters much more broadly, including to our democracy. Katie, welcome back from your mini vacation. Tell us what happened in this Habba decision, living up to our motto. What's said here in Legal Fight Club is broadcast far and wide. It doesn't just stay here. Katie?
That's right. We like to spread the knowledge. And look, Norm, it is December 1st. We're kicking off the last month of 2025, and we're doing so on a great note. The Third Circuit Court of Appeals has a trio of judges, two of whom were nominated by George W. Bush. So for all of those, MAGA minds out there that like to say that these are activist judges that are only doing what the Democrats want, we've got a unanimous decision from three judges on the Third Circuit Court of Appeals upholding and affirming a district court judge's finding that Alina Habba was invalidly appointed the United States Attorney for the District of New Jersey. And Norm, this is significant. We'll get into it in a couple of minutes because, as we know, DDF, you and others, as a part of the coalition, we've been fighting also the Lindsay Halligan front as well. And that same issue has arisen. But specifically, this is a 32-page opinion. I am a little old school. I still print out these things to read. But the crux of it we can find on the very last page, Norm, which is paragraph 4 of page 32. And effectively, it just says that only the first assistant U.S. attorney who is in place when the vacancy arises gets to become the acting U.S. attorney at the time, which we know was not Alina Habba. And the fact that Trump nominated Habba to be a Senate-confirmed U.S. attorney and the Senate didn't act on it and Trump withdrew Habba's nomination means that she also cannot do so under the Federal Vacancies Reform Act. And finally, Pamela Jo Bondi, the Attorney General, trying to purportedly call Alina Habba a, quote, special attorney to give her all of the powers that are available to an otherwise valid U.S. attorney. She, as in Pamela Jo, cannot end run what the statute and the laws allow for. Look, this is a rule of law decision. Norm, we are grateful, obviously, for Judge Brand from the Middle District of Pennsylvania, who actually was designated to hear this motion to disqualify concerning Habba, even though Habba is from New Jersey. Clean hands, Norm, as we like to say, a judge from another jurisdiction who doesn't have anything to do with Habba, heard oral arguments by you, Abby Lowell, and others on October 20th. And these three judges said, sorry, you do not get to pass go, Alina Habba. Get the heck out of here. You are not the U.S. attorney in Jersey.
Abby Lowell argued brilliantly on behalf of all of us, myself, co-counsel Jerry Cravatin, the others. He's such a tremendous ally. And Katie, like you, stepped away from big law, just as you stepped away from big media, to be a part of fighting for our Constitution and for democracy. This case matters tremendously in the pushback for our democracy, and we're going to come to that. But first, I want to take a minute, friends, to break down for you the reasoning and the opinion that Katie so brilliantly laid out. First, the court held that there is a law that guides who does and does not get to act as a U.S. attorney, an assistant U.S. attorney. The law guides who has these governmental powers, not the whim of Donald Trump appointing his mall lawyer, Alina Habba, to do these jobs. In this case, that law is the Federal Vacancies Reform Act. It's an act when there's a vacancy, just like the title indicates, a federal vacancy. This act was passed by Congress, exercising its power under Article 1 of the Constitution. Here's how vacancies are going to be filled. And that law says, point one, only the first assistant U.S. attorney who is in place at the time the vacancy occurred. It was not Alina Habba. Only that person assumes the office under the Federal Vacancies Reform Act. So that's the first thing that's wrong here. Didn't follow Congress's dictate on who. Donald Trump doesn't get to pull somebody from the White House and stick them in the job. Secondly, the Federal Vacancies Reform Act also says if you have been nominated for advice and consent by the Senate. Again, Article 1 of the Constitution gives this power to the Senate. If you've been nominated, Habba was nominated, then you don't get to serve in one of these vacant positions. Why is that, friends? It's because a Donald Trump, a would-be dictator, any president could do an end around, just nominate people, and if the Senate doesn't confirm them, stick them in as acting. That doesn't make any sense. That's not the Constitution. That's not the law. Because she was nominated, the nomination bar of the statute blocks her, even though her nomination was withdrawn, perhaps as part of an effort, almost certainly as part of an effort to get around this statute. So that's a second failure. And then, as Katie pointed out, the third failure is the Attorney General is trying to get around all these laws by saying, oh, I'll just invest, I'll delegate the powers of a U.S. attorney. DOJ oversees the U.S. attorney. I'll just wave a magic wand and say Alina Habba has all those powers. Once more, the Federal Vacancies Reform Act says no. What we set out here is the exclusive way. Again, think about it. The statute would be meaningless. The powers of Congress, Article 1, the Constitution itself, meaningless if any attorney general were able to do that. So for those three reasons, this opinion fails. Now, Katie, we've taken this opinion and we've moved it over to the Halligan case. Why don't you close us out with what's happened there and how this reasoning matters in that battle and for our democracy?
Yeah, well, as we know, just last week, Lindsay Halligan was disqualified as the United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, Norm, and that impacted two major cases, two political prosecutions of, quote, political enemies of Donald Trump, that being James Comey and Letitia James. And the fact that those criminal prosecutions, Norm, have now gone goodbye on the basis that Lindsay Halligan was not the validly appointed U.S. Attorney in Virginia at the time that those indictments were obtained. This decision concerning Alina Habba is going to be looked at carefully. Why? Because you and I both know the Trump administration is not going to sit back and just accept the loss on the Lindsay Halligan front. All of those people are acting at the behest of Donald Trump. And so an appeals court that's going to be considering what happened in the Lindsay Halligan context is clearly going to be looking at what happened here with the appeal on the Alina Habba front. And so this is a great roadmap for an appeals court to say, the Federal Vacancies Reform Act, to Norm, your well-taken point, is very clear. The statutory language is explicit on what bars the appointment of a person as an acting or interim U.S. attorney. And with somebody like Halligan, who we know also didn't have the qualifications, the experience, let alone the actual statutorily required standing to be able to serve as the U.S. attorney there, this is a great roadmap for an appeals court to look at the Halligan thing.
Okay. The last point we wanted to make, you wonderful Fight Club members, is you make this possible. Here at Legal Fight Club on the Contrarian YouTube channel, our work is supported by paid subscribers to the Contrarian. We want you to join that effort because it funds legal cases like these, both the original case establishing the theory that's now been confirmed by the Third Circuit and the brief we filed on behalf of former judges, dozens of former judges and others, in the Halligan disqualification that supported knocking Halligan out of the box. The battle is going to continue. U.S. attorneys have been disqualified all over the country. These cases may very well, certainly will go up on appeal. The Halligan case, DOJ has threatened to appeal. We need your support in order to keep this legal fight and so many others, over 225 legal cases and matters that Katie and I and our Democracy Defenders Fund colleagues work on, thanks to paid subscribers to the Contrarian like you. Thank you for joining another episode of Katie and Norm's Legal Fight Club. We're so glad to be in the fight with all of you. See you soon.
Bye, guys.